and thank you all for being here today. Sorry we're 8 minutes late getting started. This is a special call meeting for two purposes. One would be a Resolution 2875, which would be appointing members to the East Ridge Personnel Board. The other item would be Resolution 2876, which would be amending a user agreement or use agreement between the City of East Ridge and Exit 1. Janet, if we could have a roll call. Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, yes, you told me that beforehand, I apologize. Diane, please, you can do the roll call for us.
Mayor Lambert.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sewell.
Here.
Councilmember Cagle.
Here.
Councilmember Helton. Here. Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Assistant City Manager Custard.
Here.
City Attorney Lynchburg.
Here. All right. As stated in the charter, anytime we have a special call meeting, there is opportunity for residents of the City of East Ridge or business owners here to be able to bring comments, questions, or concerns to the council. And we have no one signed in, but if there is anyone who would like to address the council, this would be your opportunity to do so. If you'll come to one of the, sorry, I'm having to adjust here with Mr. Custer being down here. Normally I would say if you'll come to one of the two microphones here at the front, but now if you'll come to this microphone right over here, state your name and address for the record, you will have up to 5 minutes. I see none. So we will move to Resolution 2875.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge to appoint members to the East Ridge Personnel Board.
Mayor and Council, if you'll remember, this was discussed back early in 2018, I believe around February, and no action was taken to appoint those members.
As I recall, there was a discussion as to whether we should have a personnel board at all. It had never met, and we delayed action and never came back around to it. Now there has been an instance where an employee has requested to appear before the personnel board, and so we now have a need for a personnel board, and that is the purpose of Resolution 2875 would be for all of us council members to appoint one person each to this board. I said that correct. All right, so that being said, I will go, it appears as if it's alphabetical on our little list. So Mr. Cagle, we'll start with you. Do you have an appointee that you would?
I called and asked Ms. Doris Rogers, and she said she would be willing to be reappointed, and she is in the audience.
Okay. Doris Rogers. All right, Ms. Ellen.
I'm going to appoint Charles McCullough. He couldn't be here today, but he accepted.
Who did she say?
Charles McCullough.
Charles McCullough.
My appointee is Jackie Berry, who's right in here on the front row. Mr. Sewell.
Mr. Robert Dillon, he's in the office.
Mr. Jones. Right, there it is.
Yes, my appointment I would like to make would be Colleen Lieber.
Okay. You say it one more time?
Colleen Lieber. Is that right?
Colleen, but it's okay.
Colleen.
I apologize. How do you spell your last name?
Lieberun, Lieber.
Okay. Everyone has mentioned their appointees. We will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2875.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Council, are there any questions? All right, roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Sewell,
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilton,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. That item is approved. Now, item B, Resolution 2876.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, approving the use agreement by and between the City of East Ridge, Tennessee and Exit 12 LLC.
Mayor and Council, if
Yes, sir.
you'll recall, we entered into a parking use agreement sometime back with Exit 1 as it related to the Chick-fil-A. With the expansion of the development, a new development coming in right next to Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A is actually going to be widening that an extra lane on their drive out. That way they'll be able to service customers faster. They wanted to do that initially, but we had some issues with spacing and landscape, so on and so forth. With the new tenant coming in, if you can recall, most people in here has been to that location, and once you make that right-hand turn, it creates a choke point. So as part of this development, that will be expanded by 2 feet along that area, so go from 24 feet to 26 feet. So hopefully we'll alleviate some of that congestion when you're making that right-hand turn, because everybody turns into the far right side when people are trying to exit. And the other tenant that will be coming in would be also able to place a sign within that location, and that sign would meet our sign standards as is stated in the agreement. This is a national tenant that's construction costs going to be somewhere around $1.5 million and do about $2.5 million worth of sales.
And frankly, it's a tenant that 10 years ago, if you had said this was coming to East Ridge, people would have laughed at you. They would have laughed.
So the request by Exit 1 is an extension of the original agreement to encompass the same triangular area that was used in the past. Just instead of being sole use for Chick-fil-A, it will be a joint use.
Council members, there was an original use agreement that I sent to you, or I think Mr. Custer sent to you a day or two ago. In connection with this, we worked with the developers, Exit 12, for them to take it to, and they took it to representatives of their either lenders, their financiers, or anyone that would have any sort of stake in making sure that the use agreement complied with what they would require. 2 changes were made. If you look at section A4, originally it said, Exit 12 shall not assign, hypothecate, or mortgage this agreement or any or all of its rights hereunder without the prior written consent. What that intended to say was that under the use agreement, there would be that cross-hatch area that's attached here to as Exhibit A. And they can't pledge that in terms of using that as collateral for purposes of securing financing, such that if there was a default, the lender could say, we're going to foreclose on that property. They can't do that. And so I clarified that. If you look in the amended one, it says that their Exit 12 shall not pledge the subject property as collateral for purposes of securing financing, such that the property is or could be subject to foreclosure proceedings. Notwithstanding, nothing here is intended to prohibit Exit 12 from being permitted to use the use area for the intended purposes of erecting signs for its tenants. And so, while they may essentially give permission to a particular tenant to put a monument sign or whatever legal conforming sign in there, they can't mortgage this property as part of collateral for relative purposes of securing financing. So I clarified that in section 8.4. The other one is section B1. These establishments, as I understand, are coming in under certain leases that have multiple renewal options. And so if a sign is to be erected, say, let's just use, we know that the Chick-fil-A, if the Chick-fil-A is going to put a sign there, they may have a lease there that's a 20-year lease, a 30-year lease, but then there's a renewal right. They want to be able to have the sign perpetually be there as well. So rather than put a term limit, the best thing would be just make an indefinite period subject to compliance with the terms and conditions of this agreement, which this agreement provides certain things that the Exit 1-2 is required to carry insurance on it. They're required to name the city of it as an additional insured in the event that you could have a situation where someone might hit the sign and they might sue the city for allowing a sign to be placed there. You can never predict when a lawsuit might be claimed, but in this case then let's just say that event arose, Exit 1-2 must name the city as an additional insured to protect the city against any potential liability that might arise by the fact that a legal conforming sign is erected there, but some jury finds that that sign obstructed the view of some driver and resulted or was the cause of an accident. The city would not be held liable, or to the extent that it had any liability, insurance proceeds would be sufficient to cover that liability.
Excuse me, sorry, I'm fighting a little cold and whatever else is going around. The reason this was added to the agenda, gentlemen, let me know if I state this incorrectly, the tenant would like to have the lease executed by close of business today, November 30th. Is that?
Their intent was to have it by the end of the day. It was probably more likely the end of next week, but that was the intent by the end.
Okay. So I felt that made this time sensitive enough that we needed to address it. So that is why it's here. If there are any questions as to why we added that or why I added that specifically.
Floor open for questions.
Yes, sir. You go ahead.
Mr. Custer, can you coming from Ringo Road down and take that sharp right-hand turn into the Chick-fil-A?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to take part of that grass on the right as you turn in on the right, not on the left, correct? And put a sign there.
It'll be on the left.
Okay, when you turn it off,
If you turn
Turn
right,
across.
if you turn right,
turn right into the sharp turn.
the sign will be on the left.
It's going to be on the left, okay. Now, so you're saying that,
I apologize. If you pull, according to this section view that you have, if you turn right, it will be on the left in front of the building. You looked at the red crosshatch mark, you can see a black.
The black rectangle there.
the red that you got marked in here
Yes.
is everything that we are wanting to designate
As a use.
as a use. How much property is it?
I don't recall.
I think it was 1/3 of an acre. Just for previous discussions and when we talked about this before. I believe that's what it was. 0.2 acres.
more property down there that could be used for this same purpose?
In that location, no.
In any location?
No.
So there should never be a reason to come back for this same
No.
question and come back in any part of Jordan Crossing.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, across from where you've got this red marked out
Yes, sir.
is where we give the 11 parking places last time.
Yes, sir.
How many acres is that? Is there?
Where the 11 parking places are?
Sir?
Where the 11 parking spaces are?
Yes, sir, in
It's not an acre.
the.
The entire triangle is less than a third of an acre.
Third of an acre?
The
So
entire
there's 11 are
triangle.
part of that whole.
Yes.
Okay, so sign is gonna be put where we turn in or right back up here in front of the business.
Yes. It'll be in front of the business.
Okay. Okay.
So just, I'm certainly no expert, but just based on what is there currently, of that 0.2 acres, it looks like probably 0.15 is already in use as either an access point or parking lot.
Yes, and if you look at the layout, because of the way the parkway is shaped and the angle, if that building is pushed back any further, it will create zero visibility. So we know when you create zero visibility, the next thing somebody's going to want to come and ask for is a variance on what? A sign. By allowing them to shift their building forward will allow us to maintain our sign standards without the potential for someone asking for another variance.
Yes, sir.
So I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
I guess one's a statement, since this is already under a use agreement currently for
Yes.
single tenant, this just expands it to be for additional tenant use.
Yes. Which would have, should have been, honestly, when the original agreement was done, it should have been brought, that should have been brought to the attention at that time, and then.
It was
it would-
solely one.
Yes, instead of the sole use.
So then my next concern is about the signage. So this is gonna be a low monument type sign?
Yes, sir, it's stated in the agreement that it has to meet the city's current sign regulations.
Is it a single tenant sign, or is it gonna have multiple?
It is a single tenant sign.
Will it be for that one?
I've not been submitted any documentation, but based on the way it appears, being right in front of that building, it's a single occupancy sign, single tenant.
Just feel that it absolutely needs to be a monument sign, not a highly directed sign.
Absolutely, and it depicts that in the agreement.
Then the other thing is change to the term of agreement, being indefinite. Define indefinite. I understand what indefinite means, but does that
I mean,
mean that?
this would be, you're giving them the right to basically erect that sign in perpetuity, provided that they comply with all the standards of the agreement. They get the insurance, they have to maintain the entire, it's not much, but they have to maintain it, keep it mowed, keep it landscaped. As far as the indefinite, it was tough to put a term in there because whatever the establishment's going in there will have renewal rights. If it's a 20-year lease, they're gonna have an additional 20 years to renew that lease to keep the business there. They will have an additional 20 years if they still want to keep it. It may be this establishment may be here 100 years. And so rather than, without knowing how long it's gonna be there, just put that there's an indefinite right to use that little property there for the signage. That coupled with their concern was that they went to the tenant, and the tenant said, well, wait a second, if there's a term, let's say we have a 10-year term, and then you had a right to renew it for 10 years, their tenant may say, well, we need to make sure we can keep that sign there for 40 years. We intend to be in business for 40 years. I did not know how to craft a way to put any other term in there. You could put a 100-year term or something, but rather than do that, what you all done is you've got the indefinite term subject to full compliance. That as long as they keep this in full compliance of the sign regulations, they maintain it, they have all the insurance, and some of the other stipulations in the agreement, then they're allowed to use the property. Otherwise, the city can come in and say, you're not maintaining it, this sign is not conforming. You could then terminate the use agreement. But there's not really a one-size-fits-all solution, since the terms of the tenant leasehold is one that has renewable rights. And I couldn't really, you could tie it in so long as one stays in business, but this business may change if it's a conforming commercial use right now. It may change to a different restaurant or something. In 10 years from now, that would require a different tenant, but may still want the monument sign in there. They just change the use of it, or change the lister of the signage. So I didn't have, and I sort of researched to try to find out there's not really you could just put no term. You can eliminate that there's no term to this if you wanted to. It's still the same impact, which is it's a use agreement, and provided they comply with the terms of the agreement, they're entitled to use it for the intended purpose, which I understand is for a sign.
So if the tenant, if that property is vacant or no longer a tenant, would this use still be valid, or could it be terminated?
Well, if there's no tenant there, and they've got a sign there that represents that whatever tenant is there, if that's gone, we can add a stipulation that provided that there is an operating establishment there, then they're permitted to use in the event that there's a vacancy, then the exit 1-2 is required to remove the signage of the vacant establishment. I think we would ask them if that's something they would be agreeable. That's probably not an unreasonable request.
Is there already a provision that if a business goes out, they have a certain amount of time that they have to remove the signage specific to that business?
Yes, all new signs constructed after the date of the passage of the sign ordinance is supposed to be removed. Building signs, building face signs, and regular signs within 30 days.
So potentially the monument foundation would remain, but there would be no business listed on that sign. There's not.
I have one more
Yes, sir.
question. Since they are asking for this to be definitely signed over to them to use as this lease agreement, I'd like to see us go out and have this piece of property surveyed, deeded to them, and put back on the tax rolls. And that way, it'd be bringing the revenue into us off of the property taxes, because that's the only way we're going to be getting anything off of it, even though they are maintaining it. So I'd like to see us have it surveyed and just take it
That's an option.
and then put it back on the tax roll.
We can,
Because as of right now, it's off of the tax roll.
yeah, I think it is, if I recall correctly, I think it is state, the state gave it back to us.
We tried to do that last time. The city can't do that.
Okay, so
It's not
because,
in public use.
right,
State
because
has
the state,
requirement.
because it was owned by the state, they
That's right.
have a very specific,
Yeah. We would love for that to be the case,
Requirement.
but you can't.
so we have to maintain possession of the property.
Yeah.
Can we get these guys to hang out kind of?
Absolutely,
They are.
let's do.
I mean, come to the microphone and like everybody else. If we can do that, please. That way we all know who these
Certainly,
guys are. Thank
I'd
you.
be more than happy to do that.
John Healy with Exit One. Yeah, we would love for the property to be deeded to us. We tried to do that originally. If you recall, there was another piece that was deeded to us. This particular piece of property has a revisionary right by the state that it's got to maintain public use, which is why that agreement says it's got to maintain public use. So the city can't give it to us. You have to keep it.
How far down through there is,
The entire Camp Jordan Parkway is owned by the city. It was deeded to the city by the state, but it requires that you keep access for public use into Camp Jordan Park. This particular piece of property has that same restriction on it, even though it's not part of the roadway, but it does still have the same revisionary right by the state. So you got to maintain it for public use. You can't sell it or.
That doesn't mean that we can't go back to the state and say, hey, could you do something about this? That may fail.
We'd love to have the property. I mean, it would certainly make everybody's life easier if we just had the property, but I don't think, without doing something with the state, you can't do that right now. Now, I don't think the state cares. I mean, I think the state would be fine with it, but that's as we all know, that's a major process, so.
But certainly we can explore that.
now, Jordan Crossing going down through there, our sidewalks and our bushes over here, aren't the concrete monuments here and here, and where you all have pushed the dirt out and made the entrances out in there too. Y'all's dirt is to y'all's property where y'all have built it up. So you're saying that this right here, these red marks, because they go a long ways up into your property where they've got them drawn into this. This road right here, that is at first, when he turns off at Jordan Crossing here, turn left, y'all got an entrance there going on down through there. So he's got a red line right here stating that this piece we're going to give y'all is part of that.
I'm not sure I understand your question. So what's your question?
My question is, the state monuments that are going down through there, that are on each side of that is not state right of way for the Jordan Crossing, what's the,
I'm not aware of any state monuments that run down Jordan Crossing, or Camp Jordan Boulevard. There are some that run down Ringgold Road, but I'm not aware of any that run down Camp Jordan Parkway.
I'd like to ask the city manager to go back to the state and see if we can purchase it where we can get it on the tax rolls.
All right, I'll begin that process next week.
All right, any other questions? All right, we do not have a motion as of yet in regard to resolution 2876.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Last chance for questions. Okay.
It goes back to the state, because one time I was either in Nashville or Knoxville, and they said that anytime there was any property come available down there around that exit, the state would not be asked to be using it, and we could go back to the state and ask them, and they would be glad to donate it back to us. So I would like for you to check it on that. I've got his name at the house where the gentleman I talked to on that, so.
All right. We can have the roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Sewell.
Yes.
Councilmember Cagle.
No.
Councilmember Elton.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Barring something unforeseen. Another call meeting in the next 10 days. This is the final meeting that I will preside over. I'm sure there will be more comments on the 10th, but I just want to say I have enjoyed the honor and privilege of working with you all. And I believe East Ridge is moving in the right direction, and I trust it will continue to do so, because I trust in you all. Thank you all. This meeting is adjourned.